The question is that, is it appropriate in the majalis of Imam Salam to talk about any current issue? Now we have this issue of Palestine. Unfortunately, this issue has polarized the Shia social media circles and the people in the East as well as the West. You see the English, social medias, Urdu, Farsi. You will see there is a polarization on both groups here. And speakers have basically expressed their opinions, and sometimes they have gone to the points of extreme, ifrat and tafrit, and not the middle path. And I would like to talk about it briefly, and as I said, I'm sure none of the two groups are going to be happy, but what can we do? What is the reality is the reality.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
Let me talk about these two extremes on this issue of the current, topics in majalis. There are two things I would like to mention here in the first part, for the first group, and then I'll go to the other part and talk about 2 or 3 issues on that side. First extreme is that, don't talk about current issues in majalis at all. What I would like to say here is that you look at the hilful fudul of before Islam, initiated by Banu Hashim. Look at the seerah of Rasulullah. You look at the example of Ali. Look at the words of Husayn. When you look at all of these things together, we see this support for the oppressed and opposing the zalim. This is actually what Islam and the Islam of Shiaism wants from you. There is no two-way, opinions on this issue. So talking about the tragedy of those who have been oppressed, especially when you look at the current situation of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, to talk about them is not wrong. As a general statement I'm making here. However, it doesn't mean that the whole majlis from the beginning to the end be about it. Maybe you can talk it, even every majlis you can talk about it, but it can't be that, it's entirely, only on that one specific issue. But talking about, those who are oppressed, those who are suffering, creating this awareness. We are Muslims, we are Shias. Look at these millions of non-Muslims around the world, especially in the West. They are also speaking out against Israel in support of these innocent civilians who are being killed. Because this is even touching people on that level of humanity, irrespective of their race or religion. And we cannot be indifferent to this issue at all. But then, the objection which comes up, okay, you said this, but Palestinians are Nasibi. We have different categories of people: Muslim, Kafir, Mu'min, Shia, Sunni, Nasibi. Nasibi means those people who have hatred towards the Ahlul Bayt. And one of the arguments is used that, why you would want to talk even or support or have this sympathy for the Palestinians, they are Nasibi. Just ask this question. Ask to yourself. Don't just, go by who is saying that in social media or on a member, whether it's me or anyone else. Go and say, are all the Palestinians really Nasibi? Are you sure about it? Yes, they are Sunni. But does it mean that every Sunni is Nasibi? Why do our mujtahideen separate Sunni from Nasibi in the ahkam of taharat and najasat? Sunni is okay, his zabiha is halal. But when it comes to Nasibi, we consider them to be kafir. They are considered to be najis. So why are Sunnis and Nasibi separated in our fiqh? Because not every Sunni by definition is a Nasibi. And this is where we have to understand, majority. Our sympathy and support is for whom? Not for a political entity. If you go through my khutbahs from October of last year till now, I've constantly talked about this issue. But you will never see that I have ever referred to any political entity. I'm talking about the Palestinian people. We are talking about innocent children and civilian men and women. And you say, oh, why we don't care about it? Maybe they are Sunni, but that doesn't mean they are basically, Nasibi. If you really want to become very technical from the theological point of view, I can guide you to give you a better term, not Sabi and Nasibi. You can use the term Mustadh'af for them. Mustadh'af is a Muslim who doesn't know much about the Ahlul Bayt because the message has not reached to him. And a Mustadh'af is not Nasibi. He doesn't know. Sometimes they actually respect them. There is this sense of even love for the Ahlul Bayt to some extent among Sunnis. But they don't accept them as imams because they don't know much about it. So they are Mustadh'af. And this is where we have to realize that, not every Sunni is a Nasibi. Salawat Pradhan Para. Let me give you an example from Karbala itself. After the events of Karbala, the people of Medina, their eyes opened up. They turned against Yazid. They sent a fact-finding mission, a delegation to Damascus. They came back with a report. And majority of them, actually all of them actually, come and said that, you sent us to see what kind of a Khalifa is there. We are not even sure whether he's a Muslim or not. And one of them said that actually, I agree with my colleagues here, even though I took the bribe that they gave to me. So he was being more clever actually than the others. And because of that report, the people of Medina decided to rebel against Yazid. Things became so bad for the Banu Umayyah, who were representing Yazid in Medina, that they started feeling threatened with their lives. And who was the head of Banu Umayyah in Medina? Marwan bin Hakam. And if you know history, I would not just classify him as a Sunni, I would say he is the real example of Nasibi. He has hatred towards the Ahlul Bayt. He was part of all this zulm which has happened to Imam Hassan, to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And yet, when things change against Banu Umayyah in Medina, Marwan is looking for refuge for his wife and children, not for himself. He takes his wife and children to the house of Abdullah bin Umar. And Abdullah bin Umar says no. Where does he end up at the end? He goes to the door of Imam Sajjad. What did the Imam do? This Nasibi has come at the door, asking for refuge, not for himself, but for his wife and children. And Imam opened the door, gave them protection. Are we more Azadar than Imam Sajjad? Just think about it. So before we use these, words in that loose, sense, let's be careful about it. It's very much similar like the case of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Uthman. Did Ali like Uthman? Did Ali agree with the policies of Uthman? Absolutely not. In Khutbah Shi'iyya, where he criticizes the first Khilafat and the second and the third one, he has reserved his most harsh words for Uthman because of his, unjust policies. Yet what happens? When the Muslims at that time got fed up with the zulm and injustice of Uthman and his administration, these Muslims and the Sahaba, they put the house of Uthman under siege to the extent that they stopped the supply of water and food to his house. What does Ali do at that time? Ali doesn't like Uthman, but he called Hassan and Husayn. He says, come with your swords. Bring the youths of Banu Hashim with you. Ask them all to come with their swords. And take water bags and sacks of grains. And even if you have to break the siege by fighting, do that. Go to the door of Uthman and convey the water and food there. This is where we have to realize that, Ahlul Bayt and the standard that they are present into us is of a much, much higher level. When Imam Sajjad, gave refuge to the family of Marwan, it was not only just a help, it was actually a slap on the face of Marwan. That see the difference between you and us. We will never stoop down to your level, even though you have been so much unjust to us and to my family. On the other hand, when I look at all these things in the social media, speakers and social activists from the Shias, English speaking, Urdu speaking, Farsi speaking, it seems sometimes they present this issue of Palestine as the essential part of Azar. In a sense that even say, if you don't do that, your Azadari is not Azadari. Your Azadari is not the real Azadari. And this is the other extreme of this whole, debate and discussion going on. And these statements are just emotions and hyperboles and nothing else. You have to understand Azadari of Imam Hussain is something at a much, much higher level. There are some very well-meaning speakers and ulama. They also get carried away. There is one Urdu-speaking scholar. In his speech, he basically says that your Haqiqi Azadari, use the word Haqiqi Azadari. You know Haqiqi means what? Means real and true Azadari is only when you carry the alam of Hazrat Abbas with the flag of Palestine. If this is not Ghulluw, an exaggeration, what is Ghulluw? This is not acceptable. When you say that is Haqiqi Azadari, so everyone else who doesn't do that, their Azadari is not Haqiqi. It is not real. And I have a problem with the whole attitude of classifying Azadar between Haqiqi and Ghairi Haqiqi. Baba, you had political parties in Pakistan Haqiqi and something else. Don't use those labels for Azadar. And this is where, the problem is, because as soon as you start using these words that we are true Azadar, others are not, you cannot insult and disrespect any Azadar who comes to the farsh of Azar of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Even if he or she does not do the Azadari according to your standard or the way you think it should be. There can be levels of Azadari, the way we have levels in ibadat. Amir al-Mu'mineen's famous hadith where he says, there are some people who do ibadat for what? For Jannat. There are some who do the ibadat and namaz because they are afraid of Jahannam. But there are some who do ibadat because they really consider Allah to be worthy of being worshipped. Does it mean that somebody who does the namaz because he wants Jannah, his namaz is batil? He will not get the reward? Does it mean that somebody who is doing the namaz out of the fear of Jahannam, his namaz is batil? No. There are different levels. Their levels of reward would be different. So even in Azadari, people can do Azadari at different levels in their own ways. You cannot bring your criteria and say, this is the Haqiqi Azadari, and whatever else is there is wrong. Even though you don't use those words wrong, but when you say Haqiqi is this, it means all others or other formats are غير Haqiqi. And so this is one issue that we have to be very careful about. Salawat. Some speakers, to highlight the suffering of the Palestinians, they say, okay, so the oppressor is Netanyahu and the company and those who are supporting them. And then they use the word Yazid-e-Zaman for them. So far, it's okay. You want to call them Yazid, you want to call them Yazidi, and we say that. But then, sometimes some of them get real overexcited. So they already looked at the Israeli leaders and their American supporters. They say, oh, this is Yazid-e-Zaman. Then they will look at the other side. Then they look for somebody to be classified as Husayn-e-Zaman. And I think this is where the problem lies. You can have Yazid-e-Zaman, curse them if you want, but don't bring the status of Husayn ibn Ali down. You cannot compare anyone from our leaders, the Shia leaders, to Husayn ibn Ali. There is no one who is Husayn-e-Zaman. Husayn was only one Husayn. In the second khutbah on Nahjul Balagha, Amir al-Mu'mineen at the end has a statement where he says, لا يقاس بآل محمد من هذه الأمة أحد. No one from the Ummah can be compared equal to Al Muhammad. Why? لا يسوى بهم من جرت نعمتهم وعليه عبدا. He said this can never be that those who are under the obligation of Ahlul Bayt can be on the level of the Ahlul Bayt. Greatest of the ulama, but they are servants of Husayn. Do not ever use this term of, Husayn-e-Zaman for them. Not only that, you talk about Imam Hussain alayhi salam, I would say do not even compare anyone from our leaders to the ashab of Husayn. because they have a special status. And let me read to you a statement from Ayatollah Khamenei himself, because this is how they use this term sometimes. There is a clip from him where he says, and I'll read the Farsi words and give you the translation. He says, Tanam mi larze, my body shivers. آن وقتی که کسانی اسم مبارک امیر المؤمنین می آورند و اسم ولی عصر را می آورند و بعد اسم ما را هم دنبالش می آورند. He says, my body shivers when some people say the blessed name of Amir al-Mu'mineen and the name of Wali Asr and then mention our name after that. He says, Tanam mi larze, my body shivers. آن حقایق نور مطلق با ماها که غرق در ظلمتیم. They, Ali and the Imam of the time, they are reality of the pure light where we are at the depth of darkness. Don't bring my name with their name. He himself is saying this. ما کجا و کمترین و کوچکترین شاگردان آن کجا. How can we be compared to their most humble and ordinary students? ما کجا و قنبر آنها کجا. How can we be compared to their qambar, who was a servant and slave of Ali? He further says, ما کجا و غلام حبشی فدا شده در کربلای امام حسین کجا. How can we be compared to the Abyssinian slave who sacrificed in the Karbala of Imam Hussain alayhi salam? ما خاک پای آن غلام محسوب نمی شویم. We are not even comparable to the dust beneath the feet of that slave. And so do not try to use this term of Husayn-e-Zaman, for anyone. Because even the leaders do not agree with that. Sometimes they say, oh, so-and-so is Muslim-e-Zaman. Muslim bin Aqil, being the ambassador of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And this is where we have to be careful. And I'll say to them, that when it comes to ashab Husayn, even the Ansar of Mahdi, the companions of Mahdi, they also, even now, or when they will come, they will be reciting this statement from Ziyad al-Waris, فَيَا لَيْتَنِي كُنْتُ مَعَكُمْ فَعَفُوذُ فَوْضًا عَظِيمًا. Even the Ansar of Mahdi look at the ashab of Husayn, and they wish that we could have been with you to attain that status. So do not bring ordinary people. On a whatever higher level they are, we respect them, but they are not Husayn-e-Zaman. They cannot be compared in that way at all. Ashura ka din bhi sirf ek din nahi hai taarikh mein. Ye din bilkul alag hai. और ये हकीकत जो है करबला से पहले की है. पहली बार ये जो जुमला आशूर के बारे में, इमाम हुसैन के दिन के बारे में बयान किया गया है. इमाम हसन अलैहिस्सलाम को जब जहर दिया गया, एक बार हुसैन इब्न अली आए, भाई थे, देखने आते थे तबीयत कैसी है. एक बार जब आए, इमाम हसन की हालत को देखी तो हुसैन रोने लगे. बड़े भाई कहते हैं, मा युबकी का या अबा अब्दुल्ला, अबा अब्दुल्ला हुसैन क्यों रो रहे हो, किस बात पे रो रहे हो? उस वक्त हुसैन ने कहा, हम इसलिए रो रहे हैं जो आपकी हालत हुई है. इस पर इमाम ने कहा कि देखो मुझे जहर दिया गया है, उसी से हम ख़त्म हो जाएंगे, लेकिन तुम मत रो. ولیکن لا یوم کا یوم کا یا ابا عبداللہ. امام حسن کہتے ہیں کہ مجھ پر اتنا مت رو اس لیے کہ اے حسین تمہارا جو دن ہوگا کوئی اور دن اس لیول پر نہیں ہے مصائب کے اعتبار سے. عاشور کا دن مخصوص ہے حسین کے لیے. کم سے کم عاشور کا دن صرف عزائے حسین کے لیے ہونا چاہیے.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد